All right, and I'm going to let the applicants in. We can get started in just a moment. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Monday, November 22nd, 2021 special meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustments to order. This special meeting will consider business deferred from the November 15th regular meeting. We will begin with roll call. Candace Forrest.
Present.
Todd James is absent. Tamara Aggins.
Present.
Jose Alvarez.
Present.
Jamie Romero Diaz.
Present.
Alfonso Gonzalez is absent. Matt Rufo.
Present.
Okay. At this time, would the board please make a motion to adopt the minutes from the November? Well, we'll actually need did we adopt the minutes from the October 18th meeting?
We adopted them from October, and I did create, they're like mini minutes from last week. So we technically have to adopt those for the 15th.
Okay. Would the board make a motion to adopt the November 15th meeting?
Jose Alvarez moves to approve the minutes, the minutes.
I'll second, Rami.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Alvarez, second by Commissioner Diaz to adopt the minutes from our November 15th board meeting. Roll call vote. Tamara Eggins.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Romero Diaz.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez. Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries.
Thank you. Would the board please make a motion to adopt the special hearing rules?
Oh, I need to.
I'm sorry. Would you read would you please, with the chair, please read the special hearing rules?
Certainly.
Myself.
Special public hearing rules for Board of Zoning Adjustments hearings held via video conference. Order of business. The order of business at the hearing shall be as follows. Call to order and roll call with recording of members present, approval of minutes, reading and adoption of the hearing rules, presentation of dockets, which includes staff presentation, applicant presentation, and questions from members. Recess for 30 minutes, consideration of dockets, which includes public comment, rebuttal by applicant, questions from members, and voting, ending with adjournment. Presentation of dockets. The order of business for each docket shall be as follows. Presentation by the City Planning Commission staff or the Department of Safety and Permit staff. Presentation by the applicant or their representative. The appellant or applicant may appear on their behalf or be represented by a duly authorized agent. Only one representative may speak on behalf of a request and must pre-register with the staff of the City Planning Commission. Other representatives or speakers may sign up to provide comments during the public comment portion of the meeting. The applicant shall be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Questions from members. The members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or applicant. Recess. The board shall take a 30-minute recess to allow members of the public to submit comments. Public comment. Rules. Only written public comment will be allowed. Live public comment will not be allowed. No member of the public may submit more than one written comment per agenda item. Time allowed for public comment. The public comment form will be made available at the start of the meeting and will close at the end of the 30-minute recess. Form. Public comments must be submitted electronically on the form provided by the City Planning Commission. Any comment missing this information will not be read aloud. Each submission must contain the commenter's first and last name, the commenter's address, whether the commenter is being paid in connection with his or her comments and the agenda item. Reading of public comments. A moderator will read into the record all comments pertaining to that item that have been submitted in accordance with these rules. Comments will be read aloud in a normal speaking voice. The moderator will discontinue reading a comment once it exceeds 2 minutes. Rebuttal by applicant. Following the public comment period, if there is opposition, the authorized representative of the application is allowed a rebuttal not to exceed 5 minutes. Questions from members. Following the public comment and rebuttal, the members have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff or applicant. Voting. Making a motion. The member making a motion shall clearly state their name when making a motion. For example, I, Candace Forrest, move to approve or deny the request. Seconding a motion. The member seconding a motion shall clearly state their name when seconding the motion. For example, I, Candace Forrest, second the motion made by the other member. Statement by the chair. The chair will restate the motion, confirming who made and seconded the motion. Voting. The chair will request a verbal vote from each member by roll call. Each member will indicate yay to vote in support of the motion or nay to vote in opposition. And that's the end of the hearing rules.
Will the board make a motion to adopt the special hearing rules?
I, Jose Alvarez, move to the hearing rules.
And Rami, I'll second. Oh,
Go
Go ahead.
for it.
Okay, I think
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Alvarez and seconded by Commissioner Diaz to adopt the special hearing rules. Roll call vote, Tamara Eggins,
Yes.
Jose Alvarez,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Matthew Rufo,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest. Yes, 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries.
Thank you. In accordance with the adopted hearing rules, the public comment form link is available on the city's Granicus website, as well as NOLA.gov/CPC. It will be available until the end of the recess, after which public comments will be read into the record as a part of consideration of dockets. As a reminder to applicants, the action that the board takes today will be released in the form of a disposition notice by December 2nd and sent via email and mail to the applicant, as well as posted on the One Stop app for other interested parties. Request that
I just realized that the rendering was not included in this presentation.
the board votes to approve must show compliance with any noted provisos before the case is finalized and granted final approval. We'll begin with unfinished business for variances. The first item is BZA docket 07021 for a property at 727 Wheatland Place. James Pinson is signed up to speak on behalf of this application, and following the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present. BZA 0, is Haley on the line? Or is she out?
She got a flat tire. So we're
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, BZA 07021 is a request for a variance from the provisions of table 13-2 of the CZO to permit an addition to a single-family residence resulting in insufficient rear yard setback. This is an after-the-fact request because the work proceeded without first applying for a permit. The property is located at 727 Wheatland Place in the Navarre neighborhood. Table 13-2 requires a 20-foot rear yard setback, and the applicant is providing 18.35 feet, so is requesting a waiver of 1.65 feet. At its October 18th meeting, the BZA deferred this matter for 30 days to allow the applicant time to explore ways to offset the after-the-fact variance request for a variance of the rear yard setback requirements. Although the board did not find the request to meet the approval criteria of Article 4, they discussed possibly granting approval subject to a proviso that the applicant provide a recorded deed restriction that would prohibit the expansion of the building into the remaining designated side yard. This could offset the increased use of the rear yard setback space. The board also pointed out another existing legal non-conforming site condition, the curb width excessive width. This condition could be brought into compliance to offset the newly requested variance. Since the October meeting, the applicant has stated that their intent to record the deed restriction should the board grant approval of the rear yard setback variance request. The applicant stated that the property owner does not want to move forward with modifying the curb cut. The staff's original recommendation has not changed from denial. The staff found that the requested variance fails to meet 6 of the 9 criteria for variances in that there are no special circumstances which are peculiar to the land. Literal interpretation of the ordinance will not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the district. The special circumstances were caused by the applicant. The variance will confer on the applicant special privileges. The property regulations will not result in a demonstrable hardship, and the change is exclusively for the convenience and profit of the owner. The applicant now has 5 minutes to present.
Good morning, everyone. I was just basically going to say exactly what was just said there, that we are want to move forward with the recorded deed restriction. The curb cut was something that was looked into, but it was not going to be feasible in order to give the amount of offset from the increased rear setback space. So we are planning on wanting to go forward with the recorded deed restriction.
Thank you.
Which, of course, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's fine.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask if you were finished with your comments, but you can go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board members? Commissioner Diaz, I think you and Commissioner James may have been the ones that had kind of talked through some of the points around possible ways to address some of the concerns. So I don't know if, oh, I'm sorry, Matt has a question first.
No, go proceed. I just want to put myself next in line.
Okay, I was just trying to get some clarity just in light of what the applicant has indicated, particularly around the curb cut part, and just kind of wanted to know if there was any feedback based on that discussion point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Todd that had recommended that. I'm not sure why the curb cut reduction isn't feasible. I also am looking at the fact that we've got a carport that's also encroaching. So my comment would be, if there were a deed restriction, I would make it to both the carport and the addition on the back personally.
And I would be fine with making that stipulation. The reason with the curb cut, upon looking at it further, is that it would not allow him, in order to remove that much of the curb cut, it would actually make it where it wouldn't be feasible for him to get his vehicles in and out the driveway properly, because of the way that his lot is situated rather in relation to the property next door. So that's why the curb cut, when we looked at it, wasn't going to work in order to go forward with that particular option.
Commissioner Ruffo?
My question for staff is about the permitted width of the curb cut. So it looks like it's in here as 25 feet. That's the built curb, but is it supposed to be 12 feet? Is that right?
That's correct. The maximum allowable for a single family is 12 feet in width. But it appears a legal nonconformity.
Okay.
And Matt, looking at it on Google Street View, it kind of, that curb and apron conjoins with the Sherwin-Williams driveway and parking lot next to it. So it's kind of like this massive expanse of concrete that continues. And then it looks like the curb cut doesn't quite align with the driveway, but I'm having a hard time because there's cars in the way. But you know, honestly, I still don't understand why it can't be corrected so that it lines up with the garage. It would require changing there's not like there's a tree there. There's just some grass. I think that's what we would imagine happening, is that you'd fix that and add some planting between the Sherwin-Williams parking area and the driveway that exists.
Yeah, if I can interject here for a second, because he has the garage, and then of course he has the other paved drive there, you know, where the carport is. Looks like the at the curb that does go all the way to the Sherwin-Williams property, and in fact, I am not quite sure. I think that actually part of the green space that is to the left of the driveway would technically be part of Sherwin-Williams's property, not his. So that's what. So cutting the curb, on that side to, it would actually be technically, I guess, cutting part of, that would be more on their property line there. That's what some of the concerns were by doing the curb cut. And I guess how he would be able to funnel, one with driveway into two, parking spaces there on, which is what he has on his property there. I mean, I'm willing to do, like I said, if that is what the board would prefer to do, but like I said, that was the only, I didn't see how it would be feasible to cut enough concrete out of there to, unless someone, has some specifics as far as like where they would want it removed.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm looking at it, it looks like the driveway maybe, or whatever the apron was, predated the house or something, because it doesn't line up with the driveway.
Right.
The other thing is it's all rollover curb anyway, so it's not like it's the curb. You've got a lot of flexibility with where you locate the driveway, because it's not like there's a hard vertical curb there. It's all rollover
Right.
from the corner all the way. I mean, I would think it would be to his benefit to create a buffer between the Sherwin-Williams and the driveway there, because anybody can just pull trucks in or drive right over his property to access the back of that property. Anyway, regardless, I don't have any more questions. That's sort of.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to understand kind of to what you, Commissioner Diaz, and I think the applicant have both hinted to with I was trying to see the difference between what was Sherwin-Williams Drive and what was the applicant's. And it seems like they're kind of butting up against each other, but I don't know if there's any way to, I don't know if that's causing a problem, I'm guessing.
Right. If, what you could, since you're viewing it on Google Street View, if you're on the Google Street View, you can go back. They have the option where you can go to an older age, an older time on there. I'm currently looking at one from approximately 10 years ago in April of 2011, where there's no vehicles blocking the drive, and you can. It's much easier to see exactly what's going on there. It would appear that there is some green space that was in between, like the cutout for the front sidewalk that actually extends into where the driveway is going to the garage. So yeah, it's like the whole driveway is shifted. From the street to the sidewalk is shifted to the left, closer to Sherwin-Williams for some reason. I'm not quite sure why it was designed that way, but
yeah. Okay. And Commissioner Diaz, to the question, I think you had suggested possibly having the deed restriction on the curb cut as well. And I was just trying to understand because I think
not the curb cut. There's a carport.
Carport.
There's a carport. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes
sense. right up against property line. I mean, I don't know if you could actually build that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's a question for staff. Like, does that make sense? I mean, it's encroaching on the side yard as well.
Let me just verify the carport setback.
Actually goes onto the neighbor's property, it looks like, from the survey.
Yeah, Yeah, it looks like it's going back into street view. It looks like the earliest street view was 2007. It was still present at that particular time there.
Yeah, no, it was there. I'm not
Yeah.
doubting that. I just think it's
Yeah.
the point of the deed restriction is so that if somebody built an addition, they can't, build up from that.
Correct. Right. I guess you could, obviously you're not going to be able to build any further over into the Sherwin-Williams property, but it could be, stipulated that it can't go any further back, on the property, into the rear, or side, setback area, whatever, can't be added. I would say maybe not to be added on at all to what is presently there. So.
Well, I guess it's a question for staff. It might be a moot point because you can't build, or can you build over? I mean, if it's already, and there's the side yard setback, right? Can you, if there's a structure in the side yard setback, can you build into that? If you fire rate it, I guess.
Normally, you could continue along the non-conforming building line. And the fire rating question, I think, is really something for safety and permits. I don't know how they would view continuing the non-conforming building line. I will say, I don't believe that, just looking at the carport regulations, I don't believe, and this would also likely be a determination for safety and permits, whether the property owner or a future property owner could expand the actual building footprint into that non-conforming building line, because the carport's still considered an accessory structure, even though it's attached. So I think there might be a different regulation at play.
Okay. Yeah, that was my instinct at first. I just wanted to double check that we didn't allow for somebody to expand into that space. I mean, you could expand up to 3 foot or whatever this setback is, which by right. So.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we can go to the next item.
Okay, we will now begin with unfinished business from the decision appeals for business for decision appeals, excuse me. BZA docket 06721 is an appeal of the decision of the Director of the Department of Safety and Permits regarding the determination that the property has not attained legal nonconforming status for an office use. The applicant is not present and has requested a 30-day deferral. Due to this, as well as because no new information was provided, the Department of Safety and Permits does not have anything to add. So we will now begin with new business for variances. The next item is BZA docket 07421 for a property at 725 Topaz Street. Jen Inman is signed up to speak on behalf of this application. Following the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present. BZA docket 07421 is a request for a variance from the provisions of Article 13, Section 13.3.a of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to permit an addition to a single-family residence resulting in insufficient rear yard setback. The stated purpose for the addition is to provide a dedicated bathroom for use by a live-in caregiver who would share the bathroom with the person being cared for. The subject property is near rectangular 8,100 square foot interior residential lot located in the Lakeshore neighborhood, where most of the lots are similar in size to the subject property and are developed with dwellings that feature roughly the same yard setback, the same front yard setbacks. The subject property is developed with a single family residence and accessory building. The applicant proposes an addition to the rear of the house that would encroach 2 feet, 2/4 inch into the rear yard setback. In other words, the proposed addition would be 15 feet, 4¾ inches from the rear property boundary instead of the minimum required 17 feet, 7¾ inches. It should be noted that the subject neighborhood was developed prior to the adoption of the current CZO under the pre-2015 CZO subject property was zoned LRS2, whereby the minimum rear yard setback was only 15 feet for a dwelling. If the subject addition had been proposed under the previous CZO, it would have been compliant, and thus the overall appearance of the dwelling would be consistent with the existing development on the surrounding properties. In 2018, similar rear yard setback waivers request for property, a similar waiver request for a property on Amethyst Street, which is the next street over from Topaz Street to the north, was denied by the board. However, the request was for over 11 of the required 17 feet to be waived. As opposed to the roughly 2-foot waiver being requested here. Nevertheless, the staff finds that the request at hand fails to meet 3 of the 9 approval criteria and must therefore recommend denial. The applicant now has 5 minutes to present.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to reiterate mainly the point that we're requesting to construct the Jack and Jill bathroom only 2.5 feet into the required rear yard, and that the previous request that was denied, it was asking for quite a bit more. And a reminder that our request would have been, not even necessary to request a waiver just 5 years ago, and is really, I think the staff found over 50 properties that have additions that or their footprint lies within that 15 foot or has the rear yard of 15 foot rather than the 17 or whatever it is. So then the other point to just bring up is that I do believe we have a bit of a hardship in that the original house, it appears the original house was built probably after most of the neighborhood was developed. And, our owners are not the original owners that built the house. They acquired a house that was actually built 26 feet from the front property line rather than 20 feet. And the existing main structure has a 2-car garage accessory use in it that's within the main house building setbacks. And so, other homes in the neighborhood have maybe a 1-car garage that's encroaching into the side yard or rear yard. And just the idea that a 2-car garage is completely within the main building setbacks and the whole entire house is set back 26 feet rather than 20 feet just made it really difficult for these current owners to renovate the house in such a way that, to get the Jack and Jill bath needed for the aging mother and caretaker, we just, the design required punching out to the back 2 feet. And so, we request about a 2.5 foot waiver if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from board members? I guess the one question I just had for the applicant, just in light of one of the reasons for the request is related to the applicant's mother, and just wondering if the applicant had considered the reasonable accommodations process as opposed to the waiver request.
Yes, we originally had designed, we submitted an application months ago that actually had a bathroom that encroached much greater into the rear yard. And at that time, it was brought up, well, why don't you, move forward with an RA approval? And after looking at that application, I think we maybe even started that process. There were some things that, there were some stipulations that it seemed the owner wasn't comfortable with moving forward with that request, and felt like, if we redesign the bathroom to request just as little as possible, he just preferred to move forward with the BZA application as opposed to RA.
And the reason why I bring it up is because part of the consideration specifically around an aging resident is not really in line with what's considered for a variance request. So that's why, it's kind of partially in a reasonable accommodation world. And that's why you're kind of biting at both apples right now, basically.
Yeah.
Still relying on what you would rely on for a reasonable accommodation.
Right. And we understand that. And if the reason, the reason why he's trying to construct the addition, if that needs to be thrown out and you not consider, obviously you shouldn't have sort of a soft heart for, in this setting. I feel strongly that we really do meet the criteria, and regardless of who's using the Jack and Jill bath, it just seems like approval should be granted. So yes, we understand that we did not move forward with the RA route, and are satisfied that, the BZA application is fitting in our situation.
Okay.
Just ask a quick question. Is the layout of the rooms and everything, is that existing for the main part of the house beyond just the addition?
It is. I don't have it in front of me. I think part of the renovation is that there's one bathroom that is, well, there's a bathroom that currently exists that you have to go out and down the hall to get to. And so that was the reason to have these two bedrooms in the corner, in sort of the southeast corner of the house, have a bathroom that connects to both of those rooms, because at the moment, only the master bedroom has a connected bathroom.
So, but I don't see a second full bathroom. So that's what you're referring to, Remy?
Well, I guess I was thinking if the house is fully being renovated, that, there could be a way to reconfigure the floor plan. But if it's an existing and it's just an addition being put on, I guess that's where I'm wondering what the scope of the work is.
Yeah, we considered placing a bathroom in the corner behind the fireplace. There's sort of an angled wall. I don't have it in front of me, but the corner bedroom that we're affecting has a closet that has an angled wall that's shared by the fireplace. We considered placing a bathroom in that location. There's something odd going on in that closet where there's only like a 7 foot head height for most of it, which kind of threw us, because it must be some offset for the fireplace or something. We really tried hard to say, okay, we don't need to have a bathroom that even connects to both bedrooms. Can it just connect to one, and we could reconfigure some space without an addition? But I think that chimney flue is offset in such a way that it really takes up most of that. And obviously we couldn't fit a bathroom in that closet. We were even punching into the bedroom, making the bedroom smaller to get the bathroom over in that corner. And it still didn't, we had no headroom, even trying to stick the toilet in a lower head height space. It got funky. I mean, we really tried to, and obviously, this little tiny addition on the back of the house, it's pretty cost prohibitive. Could we have just done it within the footprint? That would have been wonderful, I think, but we kind of are where we are with that.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, we can go to the next item.
The next item is BZA docket 07521 for the property at 4205 through 07 Hamilton Street. Tiffany Jones Wright is signed up to speak on behalf of this application. Following the staff presentation, you will have 5 minutes to present. This request is for a variance from the provisions of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11-2A, to permit a two-family residence with insufficient interior side yard setback. The subject lot, Lot 21, and the adjacent lot, Lot 22, are currently a part of the same tax bill. The applicant is proposing to separate the tax bill, which would allow a separate tax bill for each lot for the purpose of constructing a single-family dwelling on Lot 22. The HURD2 district requires lots developed with two-family dwellings to provide a minimum lot width of 40 feet in width and a minimum of 30 feet in width for single-family developments. The two-family structure on Lot 21, a 30-foot lot, is an existing legal non-conforming condition, and the lot provides a substandard interior side yard setback, which is a condition that has existed for over 40 years, according to the most recent survey dated October 1981. To rectify this deficient setback condition, the applicant could choose to subdivide the property to bring Lot 21 into compliance. However, this would create a substandard lot condition on Lot 22. Therefore, the applicant is seeking an interior side yard setback waiver, which is the subject of this request. The HURD2 district requires a 3-foot side yard setback for properties. Oh, sorry, I've already said that. Based on the staff report, the staff believes that the requested variance meets all 9 criteria for the standards of variance, and therefore the staff recommends approval of the requested variance subject to 4 provisos. Ms. Wright, you now have 5 minutes to present.
Okay, well, basically, it's what was just stated. I have a property that has a double and a lot. So both properties have their own address. The lot is at 4201 Hamilton, and then the double is at 4205 and 4207 Hamilton Street. And so I wanted to have both of the properties divided, well, basically have them on their own tax bill. And because of the shortage on the 4205, 4207 side, a variance was required because each lot is 30 feet in width. And so since that's basically the minimum, and the 4205, 4207 property is 1 foot 2 inches in the deficit, then I was requesting the variance for the duplex, the double. So that I can have a separate tax bill for 4201.
Is that the end of your comments, Ms. Wright?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from any of the board members? All right, seeing none, we can move to the next item.
For the next 2 items, items 5 and 6, the board may consider to consolidate these items as they are in conjunction with the same subdivision case.
We would need to have a motion to consolidate. Is there a motion?
Rufo, motion to consolidate the cases. or move to consolidate the cases.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Rufo, second by Commissioner Gonzalez to consolidate items. Make sure I have the right numbers. To consolidate BZA docket 076-21 and 077-21. Roll call vote. Tamara Eggins,
Yes.
Jose Alvarez,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez,
Yay.
Matthew Rufo,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest. Yes. 6 yeas, no nays. The motion carries. We can proceed with the consolidated items 5 and 6.
So the next items are BZA docket 07621 for the property at 4402 Fontainebleau Drive, and BZA docket 077-21 for the property at 2111 South Lopez Street. Nicholas Hansel or Keith Marrero is signed up to speak on behalf of this application. And following this staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present. Rachel?
BZA 7621 is a request for a variance from the provisions of Article 11, Section 11.3.A.1, Table 11.2a of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance in conjunction with Subdivision Docket 10221 to permit the creation of a lot, Lot 1A, with insufficient lot depth in an HURD1 historic urban 2-family residential district. In the HURD1 district, the required lot depth is 90 feet. The applicant is proposing a new lot of record with 70 feet of depth, necessitating a waiver of 20 feet. The existing lot configuration contains an existing single-family residence located at the rear of the lot. The residence fronts the property's side street instead of on Fontainebleau Drive, which is unusual for the pattern of the neighborhood. Consequently, it appears the unused front portion of the lot is its own lot of record. There is an apparent gap between the structures that front from Fontainebleau Drive. This configuration is out of character with the rest of the neighborhood, where properties with frontage along Fontainebleau Drive typically are built, so the structures are slightly set back from the street, creating a continuous line of buildings along this thoroughfare. Because the site has historically had second principal structure.
Are you all having trouble hearing?
On the site.
Okay. I think, Rachel, I think we may need to read so everything gets clearly stated on the record.
Portion of the property.
Can she hear us?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Let's try to go ahead and read it.
Okay.
This,
where was she? Had she started with 77 yet? She's. Are you able to mute her?
I'm trying. Okay, I think she just left. Yeah, I would go ahead and read 76.
All right, I'll start at 76. So BZA 07621 is a request for a variance from the provisions of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11-2A of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance in conjunction with Subdivision Docket 102-21 to permit the creation of a lot, Lot 1A, with insufficient lot depth in an HURD1 historic urban 2-family residential district in the HURD1 district. The required lot is 90 feet. The required lot depth, is 90 feet. The applicant is proposing a new lot of record with 70 feet in depth, necessitating a waiver of 20 feet. The existing lot configuration contains an existing single-family residence located at the rear of the lot. The residence fronts on the property's side street instead of on Fontainebleau Drive, which is an unusual pattern in the neighborhood. Consequently, it appears unused it appears the unused front portion of the lot is its own lot of record. There is an apparent gap between the structures that front on Fontainebleau Drive. This configuration is out of character with the rest of the neighborhood, where the properties with frontage along Fontainebleau Drive typically are built so that the structures are slightly set back from the street, creating a continuous line of buildings along this thoroughfare. Because the site has not historically had a second principal structure on the site, the applicant is precluded from developing the front portion of the property unless the subdivision and variances are granted. The front yard setback requirements in the HURD1 district include a provision that states a front yard may not exceed 20 feet. In this case, the front yard setback is closer to 80 feet. The proposed subdivision would permit the construction of a structure on this portion of the property that adheres to the setback requirements and fills in a historically underutilized portion of land that fronts on a moderately trafficked thoroughfare. Excuse me. Based on this report, the staff believes that the requested variance of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11-2A meets 9 of the 9 criteria for the standards of variance of Article 4, Section 4.6.f of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. Therefore, the staff recommends approval of the requested variance subject to 2 provisos. And BZA 07721 is a request for a variance from the provisions of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11.2A of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance in conjunction with subdivision docket 102-21 to permit the creation of a lot 2A with insufficient lot depth in the HURD1 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential District. In the HURD1 district, the required lot depth is 90 feet. The applicant is proposing a new lot of record with 46.5 feet in depth, necessitating a waiver of 43.5 feet. The subdivision would allow the front portion of the existing property to be improved with a new residence. Based on this report and the reasons stated in the presentation for BZA 07621, the staff believes that the requested variance of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11-2A meets 9 of the 9 criteria of the standards of variances of Article 4, Section 4.6.f of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. Therefore, the staff recommends approval of the requested variance, subject to 2 provisos. Nicholas Hansel or Keith Marrero, you now have 5 minutes to present.
Thank you, and good morning. I appreciate the report from Ms. Berg and Ms. Goins and all your work on this matter. I know it's kind of a complicated deal here because of the existing structure predating the subdivision regulations. I think it was built around 1930. Just wanted to, I guess, echo what was said and also point out that like from a pedestrian standpoint, it's underutilized land. It looks to be 2 separate lots of record, and it would also rectify a building code issue where the current structure straddles 2 lots. So it's just kind of an unusual situation. But yeah, that's about it. I think it was all pretty much covered. So thank y'all for the work and the consideration of these requests. My wife and I are hoping to obviously build a small single family home if approved. So I think that was noted as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hansel. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, we can go to the next item.
The next item is BZA docket 07821 for a property at 10100 Morrison Road. Lynette Gordon is signed up to speak on behalf of this application, and following the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present. Aston?
Yeah, this request is for variances from the provisions of Article 14, Section 14.3A1, Table 14-2, Article 14, Section 14.3A2, Article 14, Section 4.3B1, and Article 18, Section 18.16.B3 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to permit the construction of a daycare with excessive front yard setback, a primary entrance not oriented to the street, insufficient ground floor transparency on the primary street, insufficient ceiling height, and parking as the predominant visual element. The applicants are proposing a new daycare center to front on Morrison Road that will be built from two prefabricated buildings that are located in the rear of the site, creating excessive front yard setback that requires a waiver of 132 feet and 8 inches. A primary entrance that is located on the rear of the property, no building transparency, a minimum ceiling height of 7 feet and 11 inches, necessitating a waiver of 4 feet and 1 inch, and parking as the predominant design element on the primary street frontage. Staff believes the 7 requested variances fail to meet 7 of the 9 criteria of the standards for variances of Article 4, in that there are no special circumstances which are peculiar to the land. Literal interpretation of the ordinance will not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the district. The special circumstances were caused by the applicant. The variance will confer on the applicant special privileges. The property regulations will not result in a demonstrable hardship. The change is exclusively for the convenience and profit of the owner, and the variance will be detrimental to public welfare. Therefore, the staff recommends denial of the requested variances.
Horton, you now have 5 minutes to present.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to present this today to you. And we wanted to just state, just for the record, that the owner, Ms. Ariane Santino, has been a part of this community for over 16 years, and she has 2 other businesses along the same street. And she not only invests in New Orleans East, but she also lives in New Orleans East. And this project is very important to the area because daycares are such a
I think
shortage.
it's Tory Rush, to be honest, but I'll confirm with you, Justin. I think it's Tory.
It's such a shortage in this area. So I just wanted to just, for the record, state that I thought it would have been very helpful to be able to show the rendering that we also uploaded on October 16. That was actually a color rendering involved. Because one of our concerns, because I know I don't have a whole lot of time to present, is that one of the things that that was stated was that the parking was located where it was actually where it had street view. The color rendering shows you that the building is actually, and the parking area is actually hidden behind a landscaped area with a beautiful fence that's covering the back part of the property. The owner is even willing to, at a future development, to come back and put a building, another commercial building that would actually meet the new CZO requirement. The purpose of wanting to locate the buildings in the rear of the property is because it is a daycare, and we want to not do it just for convenience, but the owner was interested in doing it only because we needed to make sure of the security of the children that's going to be utilized in that building. She does not want them to be located closely to the street area. And also one of my concerns is if you look at all the commercial developments, starting from Morrison, starting from the beginning of Morrison and all the way to this property, there are actually 6 properties that are located within at least 100 feet off of the front of the property. So I'm concerned when it's stated that that this is not a neighborhood norm, because Walgreen is actually located about 100 feet off of the front, which is at the corner. Centino, the other daycare center that she owns, is located about 40 to 80 feet off the street, and parking is in the front. The Shell gas station is located about 80 feet off of the front street. O'Reilly is about 80 to 100 feet off of the Morrison Boulevard. And next door, the Centino 2, which is located directly adjacent to this property, is about 100 feet off of the front property with parking in the front. So I think it's unfair to say that we're not asking for the same privileges and rights that's been used by others in the same neighborhood, because you can clearly see even from Property Viewer's map that all of these commercial properties are located away and back to the rear of the property. I must say that we're asking about maybe within about 30 feet more to the back, but I'm disappointed that the color rendering was not inclusive in the presentation, because you would see that we're creating a park-like environment. We're really beautifying that property to show that the parking is totally hidden behind the fence, and there's beautiful landscaping that the owner is putting to even hide the fence. So when you see it, it's like a beautiful park-like presentation. And I think that if you see what we're trying to do, that you would be able to understand that we're not doing it just for profit. We're doing it to locate the kids closer to the rear of the property, because they're going to be going in and out. And we want to make sure that even if they move from one building to the other building, that they would be in a more safe and protected environment. It is very important for you to know that the shortage, and understand the shortage that we have in New Orleans East with daycare center. The federal government has offered funding to be able to get what we need, and this would hinder us from not being able to provide this service to New Orleans East. Again, the owner is willing to even build a future phase 2 development that will meet all of the CZO requirements. She's willing to do that. So at this time, we're just asking you to please consider the fact that that this is what we're trying to get accomplished.
You've reached the end of your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from board members? I did have one question. I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding the exact location of the property. Is this at the corner of Reed and Morrison, directly across the street from Walgreens?
No, the one that's directly across the street is one of her first facilities. Okay. So that is Centino Childcare. That is one of the facilities. This one is further down, where there is C Academy 2. Is actually directly adjacent to that property. So it's 10100 Morrison Boulevard. So it's more about maybe about 300 within, I would say within about 800 feet from that building. Okay. Going towards New Orleans East.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Sorry, just quick question.
I don't, is it possible that I can hold up the color rendering? I don't want to do anything that's out of order. Since it wasn't presented, I can hold up a photo now so you guys can see the presentation that wasn't included.
I'm not sure how that works, y'all, but I do have a different question. Candace, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know, procedurally, I didn't want to misspeak on whether or not it could be shown, but I mean, unless there's an issue with understanding, anything, I think it's fine to just not address the additional renderings unless any of the board members have any specific questions on it.
Yeah, my question was specifically about the relationship to the center next door. The intent of this is to be adjacent to it and serve as an addition. Is that right? Or like as a part of the campus?
They are still going to be a separate entity, but they will. So it's like, for example, she has the one on the corner, she has the one adjacent, and she has the one that's going to be developed on the site. They're going to be separate businesses, but they are going to they are going to service each other. I don't know what word to use. I apologize right now. I just had a brain freeze, but they are going to be in conjunction to each other, but they are going to service as three separate entities.
So the children would go from one to the other, is what you're saying? Or
well, what I'm saying on certain occasions, or if there is, and we want to have that opportunity to be able to do that if that comes into play with anything. We want to have that ability to be able to do that. But in doing that, for the safety of these children, we do not want to locate this facility directly to the front of this property. We're trying to create a secure environment. She's been doing this for several years, and she knows through the growth and over years what's going to become better and better and better to service these kids with the noise factor and everything that's associated with learning when you come down to having it directly located close to the street.
But wouldn't that be the case? Wouldn't that be the case with what you're saying is a proposed future development? If you're saying that the later phase would fall within the confines of the CZO's requirements, that would be introducing that activity where it's being requested right now.
Yes, but the future development would be more or less like a commercial development. And this is some things that we've met with ENONOC, we've met with the neighborhood associations who we've gotten great support from. You know, because their concern was working with Ms. Ariane Centino was to make sure that whatever goes into that future development will first of all be something that would not hurt or hinder hard daycare services or something that the neighborhood really wants there. So that that future development would be a commercial use. If you look at the color rendering that I sent, we spent a lot of time in the money on this color rendition, and we actually revised the site plan. This was sent way back on October 16th, but you're gonna see that it's totally fenced off from that front area. So even if a future commercial developer comes at the front of the site, which will meet the CZO requirements, that daycare center and everything that goes on is behind that closed gate area and behind that beautifully landscaped area that the owner's spending or plan to spend money on to really beautify the front of that lot property until that future development gets there.
So,
and like I said, we're working very, very closely with the community.
Yeah. So back to my original kind of question or conversation, I'm looking at the property next door, and you've got sort of a building justified up against one side of the property with a drive in front, and then some play areas in the back with a fence around it. And I guess some development on although it looks demolished in Google Earth, that could be commercial. My question is the intent for these to function together in some way? I mean, is the driveway for one going to be helping the other? Are they separate? Yeah, it seems like it's almost a mirror image of the one next door. And I think one of my concerns when I look at the plan is more about access to the building and driving in and out and dropping kids off, and just want to make sure that that's considered, or if the intent is for them to work together so that the drop off is shared.
No, so the new facility is acting separately, meaning that they have their own parking area, they have their own playground area. In the revised plans that I sent in, we're actually widening that driveway. That driveway will have access to the rear of the property through an access gate. They will be able to go there, so the kids are totally in a secure environment, totally closed into secure environment. But in reference to drop off, this new facility has its own drop off area. The existing facility has its own drop off area. They do share that drive, but that's going to be organized with the future use. Now, when we move over that would be organized with the daycare to be able to make sure that works well with drop off and pickup. Now, for the future use of the commercial site that's come on the opposite side of this property, we will have a separate or another ingress and egress that will be supplied to be able to service the other building. And let me just say this, the only reason why we did not present a master plan of what the proposed facility could be is because, I've learned over the years in doing this, especially working with the neighborhood associations and everyone that's been a part of us getting this project on the board, is we don't want to show them something that could possibly be a little bit different. And then it's like, because it's not 100% designed yet, because it has to go through, architecture review. It has to go through you guys. There's a lot of things that has to be done. So we just didn't want to falsely just show something just to get what we're trying to go. We want to be great neighbors. We want to be honest in what we're doing. And that's where we are right now. But again, that it will have its own separate playground, its own separate drop-off area.
And in terms of the future commercial development, what's the proposed timeline for it? And what is the sort of contingency in the event that that commercial development is not fully occupied? And I'm only asking because knowing that the area, there are some sites that are not fully housed with occupants or with tenants in the area. So what's going to happen if basically the site is empty for a period of time?
Well, I mean, of course, we have to honestly say that, those are some things we have no control over, of making sure that tenants are there. But I can tell you that this owner is truly, truly committed to New Orleans East and what happens in her community. That's the reason why she wants to put something there that's going to be functional to this community and not anything that's going to be detrimental. Like, some of the things that was discussed with the neighborhood association were things like, of course, a club couldn't be there, but things like reception halls and, things like that. She wants to more cater to, her family was in, I think, insurance business, and she wants to accommodate businesses like that, like insurance businesses, just business and not anything closer to like mercantile or things like that. But at the end of the day, the upkeep, you can see, even with the properties that she has now, the upkeep to her properties are very, very, very important to her. So even during the time where it is not occupied, which as a business owner, I understand that, but at the same time, because she is so invested in this community, I can guarantee you that she won't let it sit there looking like it's dilapidated. She will always take care of her properties, and she's shown that through the 16 years that she's been in business.
And what's the timeline for completion of the other?
The time, she wants to get this behind her and get this project moving. But I can tell you that it's most likely, and she has to answer it better than I can, but I say that it's probably going to be within a 5 to 8 year plan because of the fact that she has to get this daycare center up and running and moving. And I think within the next year of doing that, then she can start planning toward her future development. And again, I can have her to better answer that.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members?
So I just not very familiar with this zoning district. I guess you can have multiple buildings and multiple primary structures in one lot of record?
So because it's non-residential, yes. So it's a childhood center, so they can have more than one building. Just to clarify, we reviewed this we had one survey in front of us and one site plan. So we only reviewed this in terms of the site that's presented in front of us, not the adjacent site. So we're viewing this as one site that does not work with the ones adjacent.
And just what exactly does that mean for what we're discussing, Aspen, when you're saying you only reviewed as one site?
So if they're saying that they're going to use like the daycare center adjacent, if they're going to work together, that might be a question then for zoning as to whether like this needs to go through a subdivision. It's 2 different lots of record. It would need to be come into one site. We're going to be reviewing it then completely differently than we read it in this report. If there's a driveway and parking area that services both sites, it would need to be one site in terms of zoning, in terms of a subdivision. And we'd probably need to ask some questions from safety and permits as far as an interpretation as to what's existing and what can be shared between the sites.
Okay. And if I can just comment, that question was answered and that question was asked. That's the reason why we had to make each site have its own entity and service separate. And you can also see on the survey that is a legal right-of-way servitude. So that driveway is a legal servitude that it's not anything that's borrowed or just used unofficially. It is a legal lot of servitude that's been recorded in the clerk of court office. So that driveway becomes almost like a street. So at the same time, we're able to have 100% focus on one lot, and everything that facility needs that we're asking this appeal, this variance for, it's focused on its lot and its lot only. It's not dependent upon the other property. So that question was brought to zoning.
I think what what Aspen is indicating is if the lots were going to be, if the two entities were going to be used in conjunction with each other, they absolutely can be independent, and that's the way that the city planning has reviewed it. But based on the comments, there seems to be an indication that they would be used together. And if that was the case, that presents a different type of discussion and a different type of review. So
no, it does not have to be. No, that's not our intentions. But we're saying that if we had the option, let's say if something went on like a fire drill, or we had to move to another facility because of an emergency, we have that ability to be able to go into a facility if we need to. But this facility functions specifically on its own. I don't want this to turn into another discussion because it's not the intentions of the owner to do this.
Okay, I'm not gonna go back and forth on it. I think I'm good. Are there any other questions from board members?
Only thing I'm gonna mention before we move on to the next item, just to Aspen's point, if it is something that can be used in conjunction, and if the resub is actually the better mechanism to not promote a waiver of variance in this case, that may actually be the better mechanism to move this forward. And it's not necessarily restricting how the individual entities function. So again, she's looking at it from the lens of what is the appropriate mechanism to help to get this to this point, because otherwise we're creating a precedent by shifting setback conditions, where parking is located, and everything else in order to service a particular want, which has a bigger detriment along the stretch. So it's not necessarily about one person's preference or another. We're trying to look at it through the legal lens of what's the easiest way to resolve this.
Yeah. But the problem is, if we re-subdivide, it's going to ruin everything that she has in regards to her businesses and her and the way the federal government is looking at her grants. We did consider re-subdivision, but it's not what would be helpful in regards to why she's trying to open up the third facility.
And one of the 9 criteria is fiduciary gain. So if it's about a financial benefit, we're creating further language, what actually makes this conversation more difficult. So I know we're gonna come back to this item later on once we have opportunity for public comment. So.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? If not, we can go to the next item.
Yeah. Next item is BZA docket 07921 for a property at 515 3rd Street. Kenner Carpeting is signed up to speak on behalf of this application, and following the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present. The staff would like to request that the board consider a suspension of the rules to accept a revised site plan, which the staff requested and the applicant submitted on Tuesday, November 16th.
No, I have to recuse myself here. Catch y'all later.
Valerie, does the suspension of the rules need to be discussed before hearing the item?
Yes.
Okay. I guess my only question is, has this been reviewed by staff? Because you're saying it's a revised site plan.
Yeah, so it's not a revision in the sense that anything has changed. It includes another dimension that was not shown previously, but it's the same except for the dimension is now shown.
Okay, I just didn't know if that was going to affect the review that the staff has done or any decision making before considering suspending the rules. It doesn't? I didn't.
Oh, no. So what staff had what staff had requested was that the dimension from the back of the deck to the rear property line be shown. And so that's the only change. And it doesn't change the staff recommendation from the report that you have before you today. We updated the waiver request from last week's meeting just to make it more accurate. And so that's what happens.
Okay. So is there a motion to suspend the rules to accept the revised, I guess, rendering or site plan?
I, Todd James, so move to suspend the rules.
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by
Alfonso, second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Gonzalez to suspend the rules to accept the revised documents. Roll call vote, Tamara Eggins.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Oh, Todd James, sorry.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez. I didn't hear you, Alfonso.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest. Yes.
Aye.
6 yeas, no nays. The motion carries.
Thank you. All right. This request is for variances from the provisions of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11.2A of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to permit the construction of a single-family residence with insufficient interior side yard setbacks and insufficient rear yard setback. The Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance requires a 3 feet interior side yard setback and a 10.038 foot rear yard setback for the proposed single-family residence. The applicant is proposing a 0 foot interior side yard on the Rousseau Street side and requesting a waiver of 3 feet, and a 9-inch interior side yard on the St. Thomas Street side and requesting a waiver of 2 feet 3 inches. They are also proposing a 2.395 foot rear yard and requesting a waiver of 7.643 feet. The proposed deck, which is 3 feet above grade, is considered part of the principal structure per the definition of decks, which notes that decks 18 inches above grade are considered part of the principal structure and not an accessory structure. As such, the deck is driving both waivers for interior side yard setback and a large part of the rear yard setback variance. However, staff notes that the rear building line, not including the deck, does encroach into the required rear yard by 2.143 feet. Note that the staff recommendation has been modified from that released in advance of the November 15th meeting. Because of time constraints and the assigned planner's sudden and unexpected extended leave, a more thorough review process cannot be completed prior to this report's release in advance of the November 15th meeting. However, due to the time allotted prior to this special meeting, staff had an opportunity to more fully evaluate the request, during which time a number of concerns arose. As a result of this additional time, staff has made changes to the body of the report and has reevaluated the approval standards and the staff recommendation. Based on the revised report, the staff believes that the requested variances of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11.2A, interior side yard for Rousseau Street and for St. Thomas Street, and Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11.2A, rear yard, fail to meet 3 of the 9 criteria of the standards for variance of Article 4, Section 46F of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, in that literal interpretation would not deprive the applicant of commonly enjoyed rights. The property regulations would not result in a demonstrable hardship, and the change is exclusively for the convenience and/or profit of the owner. However, based on this revised report, the staff believes that the request satisfies the 9 criteria as they pertain to a reduced waiver of rear yard setback, Therefore, the staff recommends denial of the requested variances for interior side yard on the Rousseau and St. Thomas Street sides, and modified approval of the requested variance for Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11-2A rear yard, recommending instead a waiver of 2.143 feet, subject to 5 provisos. And Mr. Carmody, you now have 5 minutes to present.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you to the board for taking the time today. First, I just want to say that I think this project is probably benefiting from the various processes that it's undertaken through HDLC, ARC, and now through the BZA. Ultimately, I think becoming what it needs to be. The summary, I think that really the aspect of this project that's in question is this rear deck that has expanded. It's into the side yard setbacks and the rear yard setback. And I've gone through several conversations with the staff, city staff, about how it could be modified to remove some of the variance requests, particularly on the north side of the site, on the St. Thomas Street side, and then possibly on the Rousseau Street side as well. And also in talking with them, brought up a similar project, actually an identical lot and almost identically sized house that was permitted or recommended for approval with a side yard and rear yard variance at 608 4th Street, which was recommended for approval under the current CZO. I didn't include that language or exhibit in my presentation to the BZA, but did bring it up in conversation with staff and wanted to bring it up today as well. Mainly because a deck that would be 18 inches, only 18 inches above grade would be permitted by right, and appreciably a deck that's 3 feet or at the level of the principal structure is appreciably the same thing, and that language was included in the proposal at 608 4th Street that was recommended for approval. So I think you have the drawing. You might have the drawings in front of you. If you have any questions or any further guidance, I'm happy to discuss. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, we can go to the next item.
Thank you. The board may choose to consolidate items 9, 10, and 11, as they are also in conjunction with the same subdivision request.
Is there a motion to consolidate?
Yeah, I, Todd James, so move to consolidate the docket items as provided by Fallon.
That Rufo will second that.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Rufo to consolidate. Can someone mute Mr. Marrero quickly? It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Rufo to consolidate items 9, 10, and 11 for reference. It's BZA docket 080-21, 081-21, and 082-21. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Tamara Eggins. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I don't know if I got feedback. Tamara Eggins, is she still on?
It looks like she has
step away briefly.
No worries. Jose Alvarez,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez,
I think he's trying to fix his connection issue.
okay, and Matthew Rufo,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest, yes. I think that's 5. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. You can proceed with the consolidated items.
Okay, the next item is BZA docket 08021 for a property at 2550 Orleans Avenue. BZA docket 08121 for a property at 2556 Orleans Avenue. And BZA docket 082 for a property at 2560 Orleans Avenue. Sadette Spencer is signed up to speak on behalf of this application. And following the staff presentation, you will have 5 minutes to present. Valerie?
These requests are for variances from the provisions of Article 11, Section 11.3.8.1 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance in conjunction with Subdivision Docket 10421 to permit the construction of a 2-family residence with insufficient lot area and insufficient lot depth. Subdivision 10421 will result in the creation of the petition lots A-1 in addition to lots A-2 and A-3 pending BZA approval of the above mentioned variances. Each proposal is deficient in that it will provide a lot area of approximately 854 square feet, which is below the required 1,800 square feet per dwelling unit and necessitates a waiver of approximately 945 square feet. The proposal would also provide a lot depth of 57 feet, which is below the required 90 feet and necessitates a waiver of 33 feet. The variances will provide much needed housing that will enhance the public benefit in the immediate area. As the site is currently vacant and undeveloped, the proposed development will increase the safety of the immediate area as it would decrease the available area for dumping debris or any vagrant activity. The development would also result in the installation or improvement of the public right-of-way and will also improve air quality with the installation of street trees and any other improvements. Based on these reports, the staff believes the requested variances of Article 11, Section 11.3.8.1 meet 9 of the 9 criteria of the standards of variances for Article 4, Section 4.6.f of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. Therefore, the staff recommends approval of the requested variances subject to 3 provisos for each docket.
Mr. Spencer, you now have 5 minutes to present.
Okay, hey, I won't take up the whole 5 minutes, but first I want to thank the staff for the report and the time that you work on it and the recommendation of approval. I just want to note that in the legal description, this property was originally lot 170, 171, and 172. So originally it was actually I guess intended to be 3 lots, but it possibly didn't go through the final stage of subdivision recordation. My intention is to as the staff stated, to improve this stretch of Orleans Avenue that has been vacant, and to take this oversized lot and to make it more in line with the lots that stretch from Orleans and Galvez all the way to Bayou St. John. So the variance request and the waiver actually brings it in compliance with almost all of the lots that front on Orleans doing this along this stretch, and also St. Peter's. So that's all I have to say. So thank you all again for your report and recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Are there any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, we can go to the next item.
Okay, we'll now begin with business for any other matters. Item 12 is a consideration of the 2022 Board of Zoning Adjustments meeting schedule.
I think the board normally defers this to the end after all the other votes have taken place. Is that something that you all would like to do?
Yes.
Today? Okay.
Was there a list of the dates? Because I didn't see it attached to the agenda on Granicus.
It is uploaded.
It's the last link, correct? The timeline?
Yes, it's on there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It has the, let's see. Only thing I would mention is that it just has the incorrect year referenced on the filing dates.
Okay, thank you.
But it does have those meetings shifting back to earlier in the month. So is that correct?
Yes, so what staff is proposing is for the BZA meetings to be moved to the first Monday of the month. And so, of course, according to the BZA rules, which we would have to suspend to adopt this schedule, the BZA rules set meetings for the second Monday of the month, as you know, but our staff is still about half sized until we're able to get more people onboarded. And so this is, we were sort of playing around with scheduling around the city planning commission meeting, which is the third Tuesday of the month. And so by adjusting this to another, I'm sorry, I think it's the second Tuesday of the month. But in any case, we were trying to adjust this to another sort of off week where staff weren't going to have back-to-back staff reports due. So this spaces it out a little bit more in the same way that the third Monday of the month did this year.
Okay. Yeah, some of them are referencing the first Monday and some of them are the second. So I think it's just for folks to pay attention. It's just not following that standardized.
It looks like the only time it's not is when the first Monday is a holiday. It looks like the 4th of July and Labor Day are the only ones.
Okay.
And
yeah, the September 12th and January. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few circumstances where we shifted it to the following Monday due to holidays. And that's also the case for the January meeting.
Yeah, I see it in the notes at the bottom.
Chairwoman's gonna cause me to get stronger glasses. Okay.
That's what they have a Zoom feature for, Commissioner.
Ouch, ouch, thank you.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, we can move to our next stage.
Okay, so this concludes the presentation of dockets. The board will now recess until 12:10. Consideration of dockets, including public comments, will begin at 12:10 p.m. Please refer to the screen for the public comment rules, and the public comments will be accepted until the close of the recess. Would the board make a motion to recess until 12:10?
I, Todd James, so move.
Alvarez seconds.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Alvarez, to recess, returning at 12:10 p.m. Roll vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest. Yes. I think I got everybody. 5 yeas, no nays. The motion carries. We'll now be in recess and returning at 12:10 p.m.
It looks like we're still waiting on quorum.
Now I'm back, Emily.
I thought you had shrunk, Todd.
Exactly. It's my body double my little cousin Elijah.
All right, looks like we have quorum with 4 board members. And I think, is Missy back on the call?
I'm here, yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and get back from recess then. Okay.
Would the board consider a motion to return from recess?
I, Todd James, so move to return from recess.
Alvarez seconds.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Alvarez to return from recess. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Aye.
I'm not sure who all is here, so forgive me. Tamara Eggins. Jose Alvarez.
Here.
Ramiro Diaz.
Here.
Alfonso Gonzalez. Matthew Rufo.
Present.
And
Yes.
Ken Forrest. Yay. That's 5 yays. I had to count. 5 yays, no nays. Motion carries. We're back from recess.
All right, thank you. The public comment forum is now closed. We will begin with the consideration of dockets and the public comment portion of the meeting. We'll begin with the unfinished business for variances. And there were no public comments received for the first 2 items. The first item is BZA docket 07021 for a property at 727 Wheatland Place. This is a request to permit an addition to a single family residence, resulting in insufficient rear yard setback. This is an after the fact request. And as a reminder to the board, the staff recommendation is for denial. There were no public comments received, therefore no need for rebuttal.
Are there any additional questions or comments from board members?
Todd, you weren't on this one, but you had some comments in the last meeting. We discussed a bit the curb cut.
Right. No, that was that question last time, and I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. I just remember last time there was a question around seeing if there's a way for them to maybe reduce the driveway or just reduce the width of the curb cut, just as a way to mitigate this, kind of offset what this request was. Not sure if anything else was provided by the applicant since then.
Yes, this is James Penson. We had discussed as far as with the curb cut, they've got a double driveway there, and we were kind of looking at this on Google Street View, where it was going to be difficult to be able to do the curb cut. Like I said, I had no problem with doing it if it was, if he would still, the homeowner would still be able to enter the driveway, his double driveway, but looks like with the driveway slightly offset from the sidewalk to the street there, so it was going to be kind of difficult as far as doing the curb cut. That's why we had then said to do the recorded deed restriction instead of the curb cut.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that driveway cut was actually, going into the commercial business next door.
And I know, and I remember when we went through this one last time. So on the deed restriction, this would just prohibit.
That it would prohibit, any other,
Expansion.
expansion of that building into the remaining side yard.
Yeah. And you think that's the only thing I could see outside of, because it's already complete. But I mean, again, of course, we're dealing with the expansion of a structure, even though it's more of a shed addition. If anybody else has any other comments on it?
Yeah, the more I look at the site and the curb, I still don't understand why it couldn't work with bringing the curb cut back into compliance. It's a rollover curb all the way along there.
Right.
So there's some flexibility to just it's just a matter of moving that last panel of concrete over.
Okay, well,
filling in a little bit and chopping out a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd be more than willing, if that is what is preferable to the board, I could, definitely. So just so that I'm understanding, so you wanted to, here again, looking at the Google Street View of that, you wanted to remove the section to the left of where it lines up with his driveway, and then adding to on the right side of the driveway instead a little bit there. Is that what it?
If you need to, it's just that it's a matter of making it 12, whatever the maximum width for the driveway is, and then that gives you an opportunity to have a place to put one of the trees that would be potentially required by proviso, and would also give you a buffer from that commercial property in the street front there.
Right, and I think I think the issue is that the green space to the left of the driveway was probably owned by the commercial business next door, not the homeowner. I believe that was already a buffer there. So if I was to cut into the driveway there, I guess would be cutting into on their side of the property line. Though I know obviously the city owns the that area there.
But I think I thought we were just talking about the curb cut itself and not there's a pad there and everything. I mean, I'm just looking at the space between the sidewalk and the curb and the curb cut, not the whole apron. I mean, all that, there's still going to be maneuvering room and other stuff up there. I don't know if the city, I don't think we're asking to make it all tearing all that up. Todd, was that your?
No. Yeah, I guess my question was, where would you want it to, where would you, at what point,
So it's just strictly at the curb cut condition. So it would just be 12 feet from the far right side of the driveway and then going left. And then that way, if the curb condition is reinstated, that reestablishes the green strip in front of that pad. Ideally, it's not going to be perfect, but it provides the opportunity to still at least put in some type of a street tree as in lieu of compliance and provide less runoff. I mean, there's other benefits that come from it. Would you agree with that, Commissioner Diaz?
Yeah, and then also, you've got the Sherwin-Williams parking that they're it would make it harder for them to just drive right across their driveway into their, if they're delivering a truck or something. It basically defines the edge of the residential zone. Because right now the concrete just all kind of merges together all along there.
Right.
Improving the condition and then bringing it more into compliance with code.
Yep.
So would it be, I guess my question would then be, is it, since there is a double, drive, on the property, is it basically that you want to go to, make it at the street level to be only a single drive, then expanding to a double drive? I guess that's where my question.
We're just saying make it a 12-foot wide driveway at the curb cut.
At the public right of way. At the public right of way condition.
Yeah. You can locate that wherever you want. You got to work that out with the safety and permits, I guess, and staff. But it can be exactly where it is. I mean, it doesn't really. It just needs to be 12 feet wide.
Just make sure it's no wider than 12 feet, right? Okay, I know what you're saying.
It looks like if you keep your, on the right side of the driveway, there's a little offset to the actual garage alignment, right? Correct. If you use I think what I'm hearing is that if you use that edge to be your solid edge, right, and you measure 12 feet towards the left, when that expires, then from that point to the property line turns to be landscape. Is that it, Remy? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and they have the flexibility. They could center it, or they could bring it all the way to the right. They have that flexibility to do it as long as they make the curb cut dimension just 12 feet in distance, and that way that comes into compliance. It's just a way to offset what we have going on in the back. Just trying to figure something has to balance out here.
Right. No, I completely understand. So the 12 feet would be, obviously it would have some sort of tapering, from the street. So would that be going, 12 foot at the actual curb itself? And then, okay.
And look, that would need to be coordinated with DPW. They establish what's the acceptable curb profile. So just work with them on that to see what is applicable. But what we're just saying is just to, instead of having a 24-foot wide curb condition, we're reducing it to 12. It could be centered. It could be set to one side or the other. I think in this case, it would be preferable that it's to the right or in the middle in order just to establish some type of a green strip condition that separates the commercial side from the Canal Boulevard side of the property from the driveway. All right.
Okay, thank you.
And then we would add, and then there's the lien as well, right? Or the
deed restriction.
Deed restriction. Sorry, deed restriction.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so, and I guess that was my question. Okay, so it's, I guess I was misunderstanding. So it's not a one or the other. Would both of those items you would want to have?
Have both of them. Definitely the deed restriction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if there's any other provisos that other than street trees and other.
Yeah, now the street tree is under the 3, or the street tree is a 4th, correct? Staff?
Just taking a look really quickly. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't think we had mentioned anything about the tree or whatever.
So what we've done in the past is there's always a standard of review. And here's the thing: there may be utilities that may exist that say that a street tree can be planted, but at least we call it out as an option, but it's subject to the review by Parks and Parkways. So it's just establishment of some type of a tree or tree canopy at the public right of way, not in the property itself.
Got it. Okay.
And board, since the staff recommendation was for denial, there were no recommended provisos other than that deed restriction. So it's up to you.
Correct. So no, and I think what we're just trying to get to is that we have the standard. If we move this if a motion was presented, well, I was going to present a motion for approval. We would have the 3 standard provisos. A 4th would be to reinstate compliant 12-foot wide curb cut. I think we're just trying to confirm, would it be a 5th that would add the request of a street tree subject to approval by Parks and Parkways?
Yes, if you are going to also include the deed restriction and then the curb cut restoration, then the street tree, that would typically be the third of the standard provisos.
That's what I was checking on. I was just making sure that we didn't need to add it as more. Sorry.
No, we do not.
Okay. All right, Madam Chair, is the motion in order?
Are there any other questions from board members? Okay, you can proceed.
Okay. Madam Chair, I, Todd James, move on BZA docket number 070-21. While this does not come in agreement with the staff's report, I would like to move a motion for approval with regards to the waiver request of Article 13, Section 13.3A1, Table 13.2 for rear yard setback. But understanding that while the initial application did not meet the 9 criteria, this is an after the fact request. And we believe that further compliance of the provisos that are going to be stated would necessitate how we could approve this request, but also not establish a precedent for this type of condition within a district. So my motion would be for approval with the 5 provisos as discussed, the 3 standard provisos from 3 standard provisos in compliance with BZA, how we would traditionally do them, a 4th for a deed restriction, which would limit the expansion of any further square footage of build into the buildable area, and an additional proviso for the owner to reestablish a 12-foot wide compliant curb cut, subject to review and approval of Department of Public Works.
Where's that
And
Parks and
I'll second that.
Parkways?
Parks and Parkways is the 3rd one for the tree. It's a standard 3. So if I understood correctly from Emily, within the 3 standard provisos, the 3rd one addresses the street tree and reviewed by Parks and Parkways. The 4th would be the deed recording of the deed restriction. The 5th is the establishment of the curb cut.
And I'll second that, Rami.
Thank you. That was a mouthful. It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Diaz, to grant the requested waivers, finding that the 9 criteria have been met, and adopting the commentary from the board meetings as a support of establishment of the 9 criteria and subject to 5 provisos. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item.
Okay, we'll now move on to the unfinished business for safety and permits decision appeals. BZA docket 067-21 is for a property located at 2612 Esplanade Avenue. This is an appeal of the decision of the Director of the Department of Safety and Permits regarding the determination that a property has not attained legal non-conforming status as an office use. There were no public comments received for this item. And as a reminder to the board, the applicant has requested a 30-day deferral. No need for rebuttal.
Are there any questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I can do it, Todd, unless you're about to do it.
No, go ahead. I'm on one screen, so it's hard for me to work from this one thing. Go ahead.
I have 3. I feel rich. Of course, I still can't remember which docket we're on. In regards to docket 6721, I move to defer for 30 days per the applicant's request.
And I, Todd James, second that motion.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 067-21, it's been moved by Commissioner Diaz, second by Commissioner James, to defer this matter 30 days at the request of the applicant. A roll vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Matthew Rufo,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item.
We'll now begin with the new business, for variances. The next item is BZA docket 07421 for the property at 754 Topaz Street and BZA docket 07521 for the property, that is not correct. 76 and 75 for Topaz and 4402 Fontainebleau Drive.
I think
So
we can.
060.
No, we're on item number 3.
4 and 5 were consolidated. Item number 3
Okay.
is
I'm
standalone.
sorry. I got completely confused there. All right. Yes. I'm so sorry about that. So we're at 754 Topaz Street. This request is for a variance to permit an addition to a single family residence resulting in insufficient rear yard setback. As a reminder to the board, the staff's recommendation is for denial. And did we have public comments for this one? Let me see if I can make this a little larger.
We do.
We do, okay. I can't see can you read it, Emily? I cannot get to it right now. Okay, thank you.
All right. So the first comment comes in opposition to the application from Ray Landesh at 7424 Canal Boulevard, representing Lakeshore Property Owners Association. We oppose to any variances to the updated 2015 CZO. This CZO was carefully reviewed and vetted by all involved. Applicant misrepresented several facts in her comments, like 1, front yard setback is 25 inches in East Lake Shore and not 20 feet as she stated. Applicant is simply being lazy instead of working an appropriate solution, which is very easy. The next comment in opposition comes from Brian Hope at 7341 Jade Street, President, LPOA. The Lakeshore Property Owners LPOA are in objection to this variance because the applicant has not received a letter of no objection from the LMA as required. Please deny this request for variance at today's meeting. And that is the end of the comments.
So since there was opposition, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut. You have 5 minutes. Is she on the line?
I'm sorry. Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Sorry. Let's see. It seems like the first opposition comment must mean front yard setback is 25 feet rather than what I stated of 20. If that's the case, we were still pushed back a bit further. I wouldn't say I'm being lazy. We've explored a few options. This is just what we've come up with and feel like it's appropriate for what's happening in the neighborhood currently. But understand that the 2015 amendments took place. No further comments, really.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from board members? The one question I just wanted to go back to, I think what I had mentioned in the presentation earlier, and just going back and looking at the documents that were submitted by the applicant. And one of the things that I mentioned was just based on some of the comments that were made, it felt like the more appropriate route when discussing an ailing parent would be to go the reasonable accommodations. And in looking at the notes that you submitted for the demonstrable hardship, it still references that particular situation. So putting the putting that aside, just given that if you're not going to seek that as an option, then you kind of put that to the side. I don't see any other hardship that would be created. So is there anything else other than the scenario of the ailing parent that would be a hardship if this were not to be granted?
No, not necessarily a hardship, but I feel like this property is a bit unique as compared to the other properties because of the 2-car garage that's sited. It's located completely within the main buildable area, as opposed to shoved off to the side or the rear, like most accessory uses are in this neighborhood. So, I recognize they purchased the house in that way, but that wasn't something created by them. And we feel that this property is unique and just different than most of the neighboring properties, because so much square footage is devoted to that accessory use in the buildable area that doesn't allow us to, had that been pushed off just a little bit to the side or, located in the back, we would be talking about a lot more usable square footage to create a 3-bedroom home that, to renovate a 3-bedroom home that has a master bathroom connected and then another bathroom connected to 2 bedrooms. And I recognize the RA application was a route the owner could move forward with, but because it's, he's trying to plan for the future and he's not taking on his mother this very minute. And so it would not be right to apply for that because she's not currently at the house. And so he just felt like the fairer way to do this is to be very conservative in our approach and try to build as small of an addition as we possibly could. We pushed it farther to the side, into the middle of the property. We wanted to be respectful of the east side neighbor and not have it right up on the, built to the side setback. It's a 1-story addition, sort of same roof, eave height, and just felt like it was as modest an approach as we could possibly do, given we have a 2-car garage at the front portion of the house.
And I guess just thinking through I'm totally hearing everything that you're saying, and it's just reviewing the documents. It's the challenge is generally a reasonable accommodation is a request that is temporary in the sense that it applies to that particular person that requests it as long as they have the property. Whereas this would be a permanent change to the property that would live beyond the current owners. So, but everything,
Right.
even if you're saying that the property owner is not going to have the mother there right away, that's specifically what's included in the responses to the 9 criteria. So it wasn't clear that that wasn't going to be something that happened right away. And so just taking that into consideration, it's hard to, unless there's, some other considerations not mentioned, it's hard to see the where there's the hardship, which is one of the requirements of the 9 criteria. And so that's what I'm trying to to work through, because in the conversations and in everything that's being discussed, it's not seeming as though this is a necessity as opposed to a desire of the owner. And so that's part of what's making this a little bit difficult to work through in my mind. I can't speak for any of the other commissioners, but I'm just saying that's what is hard for me to work through as I'm thinking through it.
Right, I understand. And so, my thoughts to the owner on also, if an RA was application was granted, I would feel those types of things would be, an accessible ramp a temporary ramp that could be disassembled once that requirement wasn't needed. This would be a fairly built structure. And so when it's, we didn't want to get into, oh, well, then when the owner leaves the house, do they need to deconstruct the
Well,
the
I don't know.
addition?
Yeah, I don't know what, and I don't want to get into the weeds of a reasonable accommodation because I don't know what the accommodations would be. So
Right, that's why we dismissed it.
specifically, I can't say specifically what it would be, but it's generally what would happen is whatever is the accommodation would be removed when the request is no longer in effect. So that's why I just don't know how it would play out. I'm just explaining, kind of walking through everything that's been presented, just saying the way that it's being presented as right now, it's just giving me a challenge to think through it. So again, I don't want to get
I understand. We can't say our hardship is the accommodation is needed.
Correct.
I understand. Gotcha.
Any other questions? Any other board members?
Only thing I'm gonna mention, just looking at the plan, is there not any way where the double closet into that second larger bedroom, could that plan not be modified to some case to reduce the encroachment into the setback condition?
So we did explore that, and basically taking all of those closets away and widening into both rooms. You'd still need to create some sort of closet into that center bedroom, which would and we have to, we were trying to miss the windows, and I don't know, we looked into that, and it just didn't make as much sense to lose the closets for the bedrooms and then have them be so small in order to squeeze the 5-foot needed bathroom in there. You'd have to punch out in some way.
And understand being able to punch out beyond the facade, but punching out to the depth that we're showing. I don't. Yeah, this is.
Yeah, I guess you could punch out 2 feet.
Well, it looks like the set.
3 feet. I don't have it.
How much is the setback is for what dimension? The setback request is. It's a 2-foot waiver, correct?
Right. And if that proposed bathroom is 5.5 feet deep, I guess we could do a 3-foot addition. I don't have it in front of me as to exactly what you're suggesting. We do an addition that's within the setback.
Correct. And but I'm just looking at this different. I don't know if there's millwork that's tied to that living room area that's across the wall from that bedroom. I think we're just looking at what, and look, I understand the restrictions of what you're dealing with, but I think a little bit of how the plan has been configured is driving this to some capacity. So there are certain things that may be able to that you may be able to reconsider by still having some form of a Jack and Jill form bathroom that may work within your existing envelope while still making that projection forward without going so far into the setback.
Understood.
Because right now that bedroom has 3 closets, the one that's in the corner. And even if there was a way to modify the double closet on the other end, yes, you may go down from 2 to 1, not sure.
Right.
And for that matter, Todd, as I'm looking at it, the master bedroom has 2 master closets. So, I mean, you could literally shift one whole bedroom over and slide the bathroom in there. It might not be able to be 2 separate toilet rooms and,
right.
But and this is our challenge, is when we see opportunities for design, it's hard for us to say there's a hardship. So I think
understood.
And also not having the letter of support from the neighborhood also makes it a little spicier.
I'll say this one on that one, just because that's caused us problems in the past, especially with this group. I know that while they do have their review and they either provide a statement of no objection or not, understand that we still look at it just within the confines of the CZO, separate and apart from the neighborhood association or the LMA's standpoint. But just looking at this from all practicality reasons of what's here, there's a whole host of options that maybe, yes, it may cost a little bit more to do the improvement, but we can't look at the cost impact as a justification. So I see it and I get it. And there may be ways that you can still do this improvement inside that setback condition where you don't have to come in and where you may not need to trench into the existing foundation, because I'm sure that is driving this conversation to some point. This allows you to run all of the plumbing still in the ground, but not having to intrude into the existing slab.
Right.
But by still shifting the addition closer back to the structure and look at a different configuration, there's ways that you could lay out the plumbing so all of the new plumbing can be done outside of the existing home footprint.
Understood. Yep.
So just push the creativity button a little bit more on this.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, is there a motion? I guess Commissioner James.
I was gonna bring up one more point to the applicant. So in all fairness, look, and maybe it's the holiday season rubbing off again. And that was more to make some of y'all laugh, maybe. But just consideration of maybe just deferring this, maybe 2 months. And only reason why I'm suggesting deferral, give yourself time to see what other options may exist. And if you find a different solution, you can always come back and withdraw the application. And that way you at least have something that's still open. Because if you come back and say you really can't make this work and you have other justifications that maybe fall a little bit more in alignment with the remaining 3 criteria that weren't met within the application, we can reconsider it once further concessions may have been considered.
Okay, right. I understand. Okay. I appreciate that. If that
And that's exactly
is
what
acceptable.
That's what I was getting to just from your last comment, Commissioner James, about trying to be a little bit more creative. I was just wondering if the better option was going to be a deferral to give the applicant time to look at some other options. So,
yeah, and I think that's just trying to do what's in the best. I mean, look, there's the 3 criteria that haven't been met, but I mean, we still have to fulfill all 9. So let's look at it to see what's there. And look, one of them is about the convenience and profit that have yet to been met. So look at it to see get a little creative with the planning component of it, and that may help to counter where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, for motions in order.
Yes. Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, you can proceed.
Madam Chair, I, Todd James, would like to present a motion for BZA docket number 0784-21 and give the applicant a 60-day deferral to give them more time to consider plan modifications to see if this plan can come within conformance with the CZO.
And I'll second that, Rami.
Thank you. With regards to docket, BZA docket 074-21, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Diaz, to defer this matter 60 days to give the applicant time to look at some alternatives. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Sorry, I lost my cheat sheet. Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest, yes. 6 yeas, no nays. The motion carries. Next item.
Okay, excuse me. The next item is item number 4, BZA docket 07521 for the property at 4205 through 4207 Hamilton Street. This request is for a variance to permit a single-family residence with insufficient interior side yard setback. As a reminder to the board, the staff recommendation is for approval plus 4 provisos. There were no public comments received for this item, therefore no need for rebuttal.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, is there a motion?
All right, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I, Todd James, move to accept the staff's recommendation for BZA docket 075-21 with regards to the request for waiver for Article 11, Section 11.3.A1, Table 11.2A, interior side yard setback, and move for approval. Understand that the 9 criteria have been met, and accepting the 4 provisos is noted.
Alvarez seconds.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 075-21, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Alvarez to grant the requested waiver, finding that the 9 criteria have been met and subject to 4 provisos. Roll call vote. Todd James.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez.
Yay.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest. Yes. 6 yeas, no nays. The motion carries. Next item.
Okay, sorry about that. The next item is item BZA docket 07521 for the the next item is BZA docket 07621 for the property at 4402 Fontainebleau Drive, and BZA docket 07621 for, let's see, address here. Second address is 2113 South Lopez Street. And this is, both are in conjunction with subdivision docket 10221. Comment here. And 7621 is request to permit the creation of a lot with insufficient lot depth, and 07721 is a request to also permit the construction of a lot with insufficient lot depth. There was no public comment received, or was there? No public comment received for these items, and the staff recommends approval of both plus 2 provisos.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members?
Is the motion in order?
Yes, proceed.
Madam Chair, and I'm gonna, just to clarify, I know they're consolidated. Should I still reference them separately since the waiver numbers are different, or we just move them for both items and just note the waiver? Missy.
I would say, I'm not sure what, say both of the zoning, the docket numbers.
Got it. So Madam Chair, I, Todd James, move to accept the staff's recommendation for BZA docket number 076-21 for the requested waiver of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11.2A, and for the requested, for lot depth, and move for the approval with the 2 noted provisos, understand that the 9 criteria have been met. And for BZA docket number 077-21. Move to accept the staff's recommendation for approval for Article 11, Section 11.3A, 11.3.A1, Table 11.2A for lot depth, with the two noted provisos there as well. Understanding that 9 criteria have been met for both requests.
Alvarez seconds.
Thank you. With regard to zoning docket 076-21 and 077-21, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Alvarez, to grant the requested waivers, finding that the 9 criteria have been met and subject to 2 provisos. Roll call vote. Todd James,
Yes.
Jose Alvarez,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez,
Yay.
Matthew Rufo,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest. Yes. 6 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item.
The next item is BZA docket 07821 for the property at 10-100 Morrison Road. This is a request for variances to permit the construction of a daycare with excessive front yard setback and a primary entrance not oriented to the street, insufficient ground floor transparency on the primary street, insufficient ceiling height, and parking as a dominant visual element. As a reminder to the board, the staff recommendation is for denial, and there were no public comments received for this item, therefore no need for rebuttal.
Are there any additional questions or comments from board members?
Madam Chair, the only additional comment, I'm gonna just come back to the last thing I stated before. I think while the applicant's representative presented as if though they did not want to consider the re-subdivision as a means to help address this, I'm concerned that I think we need to evaluate what is the appropriate mechanism to help resolve it. And I do believe that maybe a 30-day deferral to allow the applicant and their representative time to confer more with staff to see what other alternatives may exist and maybe even look at how to do this a little differently. I'm still a little concerned about how this is initially being proposed, because this is essentially a modular structure being placed on the back of the site. And while they're talking about the opportunity of doing future phasing work, we have no way to enforce or make sure that that's going to happen in order to protect what would be the actual, what is the zoning for this area. So I would strongly advocate for the applicant to take that time to confer back with staff, just to make sure we're crossing every T and dotting every I to see how to get this addressed.
Yeah, and Todd, I agree. We talked a lot around some of the issues, but we also didn't even get to some of the other design concerns.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like those aren't worth talking about until we figure out the site stuff. So,
yep.
And that was part of what I was kind of driving at with my question in the discussion earlier. So I think I just wanted to be certain that we weren't going to ultimately put the applicant in a precarious situation if they were to ultimately go forward with some of the plans that they intended to do, if that wasn't in line with what would be allowed by code. So that was kind of my thought process as well. So I agree.
Yes, and if I can, I don't mind that. I think since I got off the phone earlier, I've been kind of researching a little bit. So yes, I would like that opportunity then to get a denial and not have an opportunity to come back before you guys.
Yeah, that's just trying to do it the right way to help.
Yeah.
And as staff, if we could just maybe ask for a 60-day deferral, just because this meeting was a week later than normal. So we have a little bit of a tighter timeline right now.
I was going to ask about that in line with the holiday and everything as well, if that was the timing would be appropriate. So it would be the January.
That would work better for us. Yeah.
Okay.
And before you guys put the motion forward, may I ask a question, please?
Mhm.
So if I am denied in the hearing today, because this is what I'm understanding, if it's denied, does it go before the council at this point?
No, so
Yeah,
the
that's what I
legal,
just found out.
yeah, no, we're not like City Planning Commission where this is a recommended, this is an adjudicant body. So whatever decision we make, your recourse is through civil district court. So
Yes, and
we're not,
that's what they were telling me just now. So I would really like that opportunity to be able to better present the case and look at that other option that we talked about earlier.
okay. All right, so Madam Chair, is the motion in order?
Are there any other questions from board members?
Yeah, I just would encourage the applicant to address the other issues and the other waivers of request as to how the building is oriented, where the front door is, and sort of the design standards as it relates to floor height. I know this is a prefabricated building, but there might be some flexibility there on the pre-manufactured structures.
Yeah, and just, even when you're dealing with that consideration of re-subdividing the property, it may change what's the front lot versus the side
Yes.
and rear.
Yes.
So that can dramatically change this entire conversation.
Exactly. And I appreciate it. Thank you guys for your patience and for helping us to look at other options. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So,
I think tied to, I'm sorry, Commissioner James, but tied to what Commissioner Diaz was bringing up, I think that brings up the point that we probably haven't talked through everything. So getting some of these initial questions resolved would help in kind of understanding some of the other points that we hadn't even gotten to discussing. So just wanted to make that clear that we still had some other requests before us that we hadn't even addressed yet.
Yes. So I am aware of those. So and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. With that, you can proceed with your motion, Commissioner James.
Yeah. So Chairwoman Todd James would like to move for a 60-day deferral for BZA item 078-21.
I'll second. Rami.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Jose.
With regard to BZA docket 078-21, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Diaz to defer the matter 60 days. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez.
Yay.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest, yay. 6 yays, no nays. The motion carries. Next item.
Oh, I think I'm recusing on this one. So see you on a second.
Thanks.
All right, the next item is BZA docket 07921 for the property at 515 3rd Street. This request is for variances to permit the construction of a single-family residence with insufficient interior side yard setbacks and insufficient rear yard setback. As a reminder to the board, the staff recommendation is for approval plus 6 provisos. There are no public comments, so therefore no need for rebuttal. No opposition, no need for rebuttal.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members?
Then sure, if a motion is in order.
I was just trying to I was confused on the staff report. I'm sorry. I was just trying to get up to make sure I was reading through the right piece.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a motion, you can go ahead. I think I'm good.
Yeah, in regard to docket 079-21, I, Jose Alvarez, move to approve the request of the waivers of articles 11, section 11.3.8.1, table 11.11-2A, and article 11, section 11.3.8.2, where we accept the staff recommendations and contingent to 6 provisos. Recommendation of approval.
So I think you may have been on the same spot where I was. So that was the earlier report. If you keep scrolling down, there's a revision. And I'm not trying to push you one way or the other. I just wanted to show you. So there's a revised report a little bit further down that has a slightly different recommendation.
Okay. Can you show me that page? Or tell me what page is that?
1 second. I'm dealing with one screen too, Todd. So I'm trying to get get to the right page. Hang on.
Feel my pain. So it's on page 17.
Oh. Oh, you know what? I don't have that. Was this up? This is the one that was updated, right?
Yeah, you may have used the older link.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No worries. Like I said, I was trying to scroll through, so I understand. I was trying to get to the right piece, and I was getting a little confused.
Todd, you want to take the motion then?
Yeah.
Because I would not be able.
That's
to
why I was
download
slow.
it.
And I guess before doing the motion, because I don't know if we were clear, I know that the applicant did speak a little bit, but I just wanted to make sure, because based on the recommendation, there is a modified approval. So it is partially approved, partially denied. So I just wanted to make sure that the applicant was aware and, you know, saw the modified approval to the point that there was a change in the recommendations.
And is there any objection to the staff report by them?
Right.
Are they still on the call?
Oh, yes, this is Kenner Carmody on the call. Would you like me to speak to those points?
Well, so I guess the question right now is the modification to the report as of November 17th. So do you have any objection to the staff's recommendation on page 17?
Yes, just to the well, the change in the report, it has to do with contemplating the rear deck, which is set at the same height as the dwelling, the house. And so my request or objection to the staff recommendation is that a variance be granted for the deck to be at the same height as the structure, or the, oh, let me get my video going here. But I just want to make sure everybody's clear on what's being requested, because the staff recommended that the contemplating just the house, that they recommend approval of the variance for that, but not the deck. And so it's just this question about the deck design and its height in relation to the house, if that's all clear. Emily, I don't know if you need to add any clarifying comments.
I'm happy to if the board has any questions.
All right, so I just have a quick question, and I know that there's this weird middle spot when we deal with exterior decks. If he made a transition where it stepped down from the back down to a lower height, does that change this in any capacity?
Todd, you're asking if the deck was lowered in height?
Correct.
Yeah, so when Safety and Permits did their zoning review on this, that was actually a suggestion of theirs, because if the deck was lowered within that required rear yard area to, to meet the definition of a deck, then we wouldn't be in this situation as far as the extent of the rear yard waiver being requested. Of course, the house as designed now does encroach into the required rear yard. And that, the lot is pretty shallow in depth in comparison to other lots in the area. But if the deck were lowered to, what the CZO requires for decks, then we wouldn't be here, the applicant wouldn't be here requesting the interior side yard waivers. And they would not be here requesting the amount of rear yard waiver that is currently being requested.
Okay.
Is that?
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I was concerned about. Because look, here's the thing. I appreciate the houses that have been developed in this area. I think we've seen this in multiple configurations as this is expanded over time. So I appreciate what's being attempted, but I strongly want to make sure that we're taking into account what still is applicable, especially with the deck condition, by lowering the height of the deck. So here's the crux of it. Because of the height of the deck, we're now creating further structural encroachment into the side yard, primarily because of its height. Okay. So it may just be as simple as either removing the decks from the side area or reducing how they encroach into that area to some extent. So I would, again, so maybe like what you heard with one of the previous items, strongly consider suspending, taking a deferral to January if you want to still figure out how to make this work out. And see if there's some alternatives of how the deck can be reconfigured to mitigate some of this request. I'm not as tied on an individual basis because I don't want to get confused as if though I'm making a decision for everybody, even though people like to seem to think so. Just strongly consider looking at how to bring this further into compliance. That's just me speaking as an individual.
Sure. And I had that conversation with the staff as well.
Okay.
That I, was totally willing to do that. Is this, but I don't think it would take, 60 days to deferment. I'm wondering if I could take it in all deference to the holidays.
So it's really, so don't get caught up on a number of days. We say that in terms of which meeting. So it would have been a January meeting. The problem we're running into is because we're like 2 to 3 weeks away from the next board meeting. And
Right.
not sure if there's enough time to process, for staff to process a report based on any revisions you may provide. That's the only reason why I'm pushing that out there.
Yeah. And the holiday comes into play just in the counting of those days for them to be able to review as well. So that was why that came up for the last one.
Right. Because otherwise we would be taking the modified approval. And then that would force the burden back on you to bring everything else into compliance and only move with what's being granted.
Understood.
So, yeah, I don't want to make any. Yeah, I'm just saying, giving you the option that I think doesn't leave too much out there for interpretation that we're dealing with. You may end up coming back in 2 months saying we need to modify it again.
Right. So as I understand it, I think the best course is to revise the design of this rear deck and then go through this again so that there's total clarity on what's being approved, what's being not approved, just
right.
Because there's a lot with the staff change in the report. I don't want to go for permitting and then have something not be totally clear. So,
Yeah,
right.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, understood. Well, thank you for that. Thanks for clarifying.
Sure, thank you. And thank you for clarifying with some of the questions earlier as well. So with that, are there any other questions, comments from board members?
Is a motion in order?
Yes, proceed.
Madam Chair, I, Todd James, like to move for a 60-day deferral of BZA docket number 079-21.
And Alvarez will second.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. With regards to docket 079-21, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Alvarez to defer the matter 60 days. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez.
Yay.
Matthew Rufo,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Please note Commissioner Diaz's recusal. The motion carries. Next item.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next 3 items, BZA docket 08021, 08121, and 08221 for the properties located at 2550 Orleans Avenue, 2556 Orleans Avenue, and 2560 Orleans Avenue. These all 3 are requests for variances to permit the construction of a 2-family residence with insufficient lot area and insufficient lot depth. This is for the staff recommendation is for approval plus 3 provisos on all 3. And there was no public comment, therefore no need for a rebuttal.
If I could just quickly jump in, it came to light that a comment submitted by the deadline wasn't included in each of these Granicus packets that you all have. It was received timely, so I was going to go ahead and email it out to you all for consideration. And I don't know if we would be able to maybe read 2 minutes of it into the record. That might require a suspension of the rules.
I was going to ask Missy if we needed to, but do we need to suspend the rules to even accept it or just to have it read in?
If it was accepted within the deadline, we can go ahead and just read it if you'd like. As long as usually we just suspend the rules for things after the deadline. So if it was received before the deadline, we can just go ahead and you can read it, Emily.
Okay. And Emily, just for clarity, this is for all of them. So for 9, 10, and 11, it applies to each one. You're on mute, Emily.
Thank you. I'm just opening up the file. All right. And it is a little lengthy, so I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. Missy, is that appropriate? Even though we were, okay, thank you. All right. So this letter addresses the Honorable Latoya Cantrell, Mayor, Brenda Bro, Executive Director, Nora, Laura C. Settlemeyer, In-House Counsel, Nora, New Orleans Inspector General, Louisiana Real Estate Commission, Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors, New Orleans Code Enforcement, regarding the illegal destruction of 2 city-owned oak trees by Nora board member. To whom it may concern, this letter concerns the illegal destruction of 2 city-owned mature oak trees by Sadat Spencer so that he could build on his own adjacent property. I'm writing as a witness and neighborhood homeowner who is appalled that a mayorally approved Nora board member would illegally destroy a public asset for his own personal gain. I respectfully request that 1, Nora review Spencer's appointment and decide whether it wishes to have board members who place their own interests before the public's. 2, the City of New Orleans issue a stop work order on the property until he pays the full value of both oak trees, the cost of removing the debris he has left on public property, and the maximum fine. 3, the Louisiana Real Estate Commission and Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors review whether Spencer's conduct violates the ethical and moral standards they impose upon their licenses. Details about the destruction. The property is located at 2551 St. Peter Street, and it appears this letter is in reference to the applicant rather than the properties. At the intersection with North Dorgenois and the Treme Lafitte neighborhood, 3 large oak trees stand between the property line and North Dorgenois Street. These oak trees used to provide a lush and beautiful canopy for the many bikers and pedestrians who traverse this busy thoroughfare. According to city and state records, the property was purchased on June 10th, 2021 by SMS Development LLC, an entity solely owned by Sadat Spencer. Construction started shortly thereafter, and I was excited to see new residential construction on the previously vacant land. And that is the end of the 2 minutes. I also emailed this to the board as well for review.
Thank you. Misty, do we need to do any rebuttal? I'm not sure how to handle since it was read in, but I'm also kind of concerned because it's not really related to the item before us. So I don't know how to handle if we need to do rebuttal or anything based on those comments.
It was not germane, but also I guess we could clarify it as against. So I would just give the applicant an opportunity to rebut just out of an abundance of caution.
Okay, thanks. Is the applicant on? I have different screens popped up, so I can't see.
I don't see him. And just as a quick note, I'm verifying whether this is another address associated with the site.
I couldn't, I mean, I don't know for sure. I saw that it was a different address, so I wasn't sure.
It's a different site. It's on the same lot, but it faces the St. Peter Street side. So it's not the same property.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess with that, we're at board discussions. Are there any questions or comments from board members? And just a point of clarity, Commissioner James had to drop off. If there are no questions or comments, is there a motion?
Well, if they're not, is the applicant's not there, right?
No.
No. I guess they're going to conceivably have a similar issue with the tree on this property as well. But in any case. I'm driving around the site right now in Street View. Apologies. We can, if anyone has a motion, I'm not.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand this. So yeah, so basically the tree as it's being referred to this letter is on the corner of South Peters and Virginia's Street, right? Now that I kind of locate myself, if you go to that corner, you see kind of the tree that is being addressed on this letter. All right. So is a motion in order? Yes.
Yes, you can proceed.
All right. In regard to docket BCA 08021, 081, 21, and 082, 21, I, Jose Alvarez, move to approve the request of the waiver of articles Article 11, Section 11.3.8.1, Table 11-2A. Following the staff recommendations for approval with the three provisos.
Alfonso, second.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 080-21, 081-21, and 082-21, it's been moved by Commissioner Alvarez, second by Commissioner Gonzalez, to grant the requested waivers, finding that the 9 criteria have been met and subject to 3 provisos. Roll vote. Jose Alvarez.
Yay.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez.
Yay.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest. Yes. 5 yeas, no nays. The motion carries. Next item.
We'll move on to the new business for any other matters, which is a consideration of the adoption of the 2022 Board of Zoning Adjustments schedule.
All right. So as mentioned, and I'll add a little more to our prior conversation, this is the proposed 2022 BZA schedule for adoption. I know Todd had already noted an error in the years under the filing deadline category. There should be December 3rd, 2021, December 31st, 2021, and then the remainder should be a 2022 date. There are a couple modifications from the regular, from the BZA rules as we would normally adopt the schedule. So the first one, as I mentioned, we're proposing moving BZA meetings to the first Monday of each month with a few exceptions due to holidays. Those exceptions are the January meeting, as well as the July and September meetings due to holidays. And in those cases, the meeting would be moved to the following Monday, which would be the second Monday of the month. Staff is also proposing, and to back up on that, that is to accommodate the CPC meetings, the City Planning Commission meetings, which are held on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of each month. And so this better spaces out when staff reports are due for our staff. So we're not having back-to-back reports due. We did something similar this past year by moving BZA meetings to the 3rd Monday of the month. We thought it might work better to have the 1st Monday of the month for the upcoming year. So that is for your consideration. As far as filing deadlines, we are also proposing a slight change to the filing deadlines. Normally, filing deadlines fall on a Monday at 5 p.m. That leaves staff less than the maximum amount of time allowed to review applications for completeness. So we are actually suggesting shifting it to the prior Friday at 5 p.m. And that'll give staff just one more business day to review applications for completeness. So that was just something that staff was, it would make our review a little bit more streamlined and give more time. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Are there any questions from board members? And just for clarity, I'm assuming there was no public comment submitted for this.
Does not appear so, but I would like to double check.
Looks okay to me. Looks okay to y'all?
Yeah, I was, Emily was just confirming that there was no public comment.
Yeah, and we can approve it even with the dates incorrect.
I would just make a note of the filing dates just having to be corrected for the appropriate year. So if whoever makes the motion, just make a point of clarity that the filing deadline dates just needed to be corrected.
And the board would also need to suspend the rules, as mentioned earlier, since the majority of the scheduled or the proposed meeting dates would not be on the second Monday of the month, which is what the BZA rules state.
So do we need to suspend the rules first before?
What you would do is you would make a motion to suspend the rules and adopt this scheduling deadline deadline with the proposed changes.
Okay. Thank you, Missy. Emily, are we good to go? Were there no public comments?
Correct. There were no public comments submitted for this.
Thank you. So is there a motion? And just to make it easier, as you're making the motion, as Missy said, if you make the motion as we've read through everything, it would be a motion to suspend the rules and adopt the proposed scheduling and deadlines with the noted correction for the filing deadline.
Matt Rufo will move to suspend the rules and adopt the proposed schedule with the amended dates.
I second. Alvarez.
Alfonso.
Got a couple seconds. Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Rufo. I think I heard seconded by Commissioner Alvarez to suspend the rules and adopt the proposed scheduling and deadlines with the noted date correction for the filing deadline. Roll vote. Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez.
Yay.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest. Yes. 5 yays, no nays. The motion carries. Are there any other items?
No, just our motion to adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second. Rami.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Gonzalez, second by Commissioner Diaz to adjourn the meeting. Roll vote. Jose Alvarez.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Alfonso Gonzalez.
Yay.
Matthew Rufo.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest. Yes. 5 yays, no nays. The motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned. Just want to wish everyone a happy holiday. Enjoy indulging in whatever it is that you enjoy eating. Everybody has different diets, so I can't say what all it might be, but hopefully everybody gets some well-needed rest and enjoyment with friends, family, and whomever.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you. Take care, all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I have a great one.